So, what if you had a personal code of conduct? A set of non-negotiable rules guiding pretty much every action and decision you make. Today, we're going to break down one of those codes, a really modern philosophy for living with intention. And we're going to start with a rule you might not expect.
It all starts with something this specific. Seems pretty simple, right? Maybe even a little old-fashioned. But believe me, this small action speaks volumes about respect, presence, and intention. It's the perfect entry point into a much bigger philosophy, the mindset of the modern sovereign. And look, when we say sovereign, we're not talking about kings or queens. Think of it as a metaphor for, radical self-mastery. It's this idea that you are the ultimate authority in your own life. You set your own laws, you enforce your own boundaries, and you act with a purpose that comes from inside you, not from all that external pressure.
To really get this code, we're going to break it down into 4 key parts. We'll kick things off with the internal pillar of self-respect, then we'll dive into how to project that with a commanding presence. After that, we'll look at building a solid foundation of power, and finally, we'll wrap it all up by showing how it all comes together in the sovereign's mindset.
All right, first up, the pillar of self-respect. Honestly, this is the bedrock of the entire philosophy. See, before you can command respect from the world, you have to define what respect even means to you. This is all about the non-negotiable lines you draw for yourself.
Just look at the range of these rules. I mean, they cover everything from these deeply personal boundaries and relationships all the way down to simple social etiquette. But whether it's not begging for a relationship or not eating the last piece of something you didn't buy, they all point back to one core idea: knowing and then enforcing your own value.
At the end of the day, these aren't just random rules. They're daily actions that reinforce a really powerful internal belief. I am worthy of respect and I will not compromise my standards. You're literally building a psychological frame that just doesn't bend to outside pressure.
So this brings up a pretty big question for all of us, right? This code has its own examples, but what about you? What are the lines you draw to protect your self-worth? And more importantly, how consistently do you actually hold them? It's definitely something to think about.
Okay, so this internal self-respect, it naturally builds into our second pillar, a commanding presence. If self-respect is your foundation, then presence is how you project that strength out into the world. It's all about how you carry yourself, how you interact with people, and, maybe most importantly, how you listen.
So here we see that code in action. Dressing well? That's not about being vain. It's about signaling self-respect. Standing for a handshake is a physical way of showing you're engaged. And those last 2 rules, they're about controlling the flow of a conversation, not with your words, but with your attention and your silence. Let's just break down that listening rule for a second because it is so powerful. It's a simple 3-step process. First, you just listen. You're not thinking about your reply, you're just absorbing what's being said. Then, you acknowledge with nonverbal cues. And finally, eye contact. That signals that the other person is the absolute center of your attention. This one thing makes people feel so heard and respected.
And this is the power of the pause. Over on the left, you've got the typical reactive response. It's immediate, it's emotional, maybe a little defensive. You're basically giving away control. But on the right, just by taking 1 to 3 seconds, you reclaim all of that control. You give yourself a moment to think, to breathe, and to respond with intention instead of just pure instinct.
So you see, a commanding presence isn't about being the loudest person in the room. It's actually the opposite. It's this quiet confidence that comes from being deliberate in your actions, in your appearance, and even in your silence. It's the difference between choosing to act and being forced to react.
All right, on to our third pillar, the foundation of power. See, a sovereign mindset can't just be an idea in your head. It needs to be supported by tangible, real-world strength. This is all about building the physical, financial, and mental resources that give you true independence and freedom.
It starts with a simple number, 4. The code is very explicit about this. Work out on a minimum of 4 times a week. And this isn't about looking good. It's about forging discipline, building resilience, and generating the raw physical energy you need to pursue your ambitions relentlessly. Physical fitness is just non-negotiable. And beyond the physical stuff, these rules build like a fortress of financial independence. Notice the theme here. Never go broke to impress. That's about taking your power back from what other people think. Always carry cash is kind of a symbol of being prepared and having options in a world that's all digital. And finding multiple ways to make money isn't just about getting rich. It's about making yourself anti-fragile. And the whole thing is fueled by the one driving force behind this entire code, a relentless ambition to always be better.
The real insight here is seeing how these different areas all connect.
Physical discipline forges the mental toughness you need for financial discipline. And then, financial independence buys you the freedom to go after your ambitions. It's this powerful, self-reinforcing cycle that builds a true foundation for your life.
So, we've walked through the pillars of self-respect, presence, and power. Now, let's bring them all together and see what this cohesive sovereign's mindset really looks like.
Here's how it all clicks together. It starts on the inside with self-respect, defining your own boundaries. Then it moves to the outside with a commanding presence, controlling your interactions. And the whole thing is supported by the foundation of power, building the resources that give you the freedom to actually live by your own code.
And just when you think this code is all about the self, it leaves us with this final, absolutely crucial rule. This adds a whole new, powerful dimension. True sovereignty isn't just about ruling yourself, it's about your responsibility to other people. It's a code of personal strength that's really only completed by loyalty and a duty to protect and respect those who are right there beside you.
And that brings us to the final thought here. We've just deconstructed the modern sovereign's code. But what about yours? If you had to boil your own philosophy, your own way of living, down to just 3 essential, non-negotiable rules, what would they be? That's a question really worth pondering.